Email on his printer out. Yeah, that was the right law. Even the verb was considered a class. So I just like to have the right together.
Yes.
Very correct.
This is called
The trying something.
Anything else? Is there any foundation?
Yes. You probably should have more. There's probably should have more.
I have to say that I'm not the reporter. I have to make it sound like I tried. No, it's just not on yet.
How could you make it easier?
Mark, you okay? You ready? 2 seconds. Oh. You're good? Good. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on the agenda is your approval of the July 27th minutes.
I motion that we approve those minutes.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor, vote for saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Please be roll. We didn't have a sheet back there, but do we have any public comment? Okay. Okay. We'll move on to, there's no old business, we'll move on to new business. Hello, Mr. Patch.
How you doing? So, he won't be here long, but Derek wanted me to come and talk, so this is part of the reason why I've been busy. So I just had a son, and this is my wife, so this is little Timmy, so this is his first township meeting. So he'll be taking over someday, so I thought I'd just bring him and show it to you. So, but we don't know how long he's last, so she's going to take it, and I'm going to fill you guys in. So we were on the road anyway, so.
He has that deer in the headlights look like I have.
Yeah, he's like, what's going on? So, real quickly, I wrote some notes. I'm not sure what Derek told you about phase 1. So we had some issues with out on Conewago Road with York Water and the sewer authority, and then the water was going right through where the sewer was supposed to tie into. So we had to relocate, and we had to shut down 600 people in the middle of the night and take the water down and over. And so we got through that drama, and then so then our biggest issue that we ran into is we were putting the manholes in down at the you can back down here. So these manholes are in, but we hit so much rock, but we didn't hit the rock when we were doing our probes and those types of things. So we did a whole bunch of tests, and to blast, it was gonna be almost $900,000. So, I didn't have that, and if I did, I'd give it to him and a contractor. So Derek knows, I brought him here, but not that you guys needed him, but we hit so much rock that we basically changed the grade, but we couldn't change the ponds because we already put them in, we couldn't get back for permits. So it took RGS months, and we met with Brubacher, long story short, but so then we got him to Derek, and Derek reviewed them, had some comments, and then we got him to the sewer authority, and they had some comments, and then we fixed all that. So now we're basically to that new grade. Some of it changed 6 inches, but now the worst drop is all through grade and B. So, so we basically, I think some of that's what, 2 feet higher-ish? So maybe some of it's 3. So then we went through, Derek was concerned that, this road eventually, goes into, crosses the creek. So we didn't want to make that culvert higher than, would be for DEP's permits and stuff like that. So I think we're a foot, this is just by memory, but I think we're a foot, less in height here than we are, at the connection to Bennett Run. So even though we raised it, we still are within the limits of, what we had designed for over there. So then we,
Basically, you raised.
to get out some of the rock.
To get out some of the rock.
Correct.
I'll just interject real quickly. My main concerns that I shared with Tim and RGS is that I understand the raising of the street grade, keep them out of the rock excavation. The issue you run into is you're in the center line of that road, you're increasing the size that the structure needs to be because you're now higher.
Yeah.
So potentially, a lower structure, maybe you're only spanning, let's say 50 feet. Now you're higher, now you might be spanning 70, 80. So my concern at the time without running the numbers, and again, it's still, it's your prerogative. So, my concern with saving the money on the rock by raising the elevation was just going to add cost for the crossing down the road and kind of be a net neutral.
Yeah. So we got, to Derek's point, we got quotes, and believe it or not, when you get into those size culverts, the price really didn't change a lot. And it's just a good byproduct for later. Instead of going down and then hitting the creek and then we're going back up, we're up a little bit further, so won't have as much of a dip when people are going through there. The dip will slow down traffic, but it's not going to be going down like this and back out of the creek as much. So there's a long-term benefit, but that's years down the road. So, and so Brubacher and myself, we went back and forth, and so then they're moving equipment in this week, and they're going to start next week. So it's just ironic that I'm here tonight. But they were hoping to start last week, but they had a bunch of meetings, and I asked them to, we switched project managers, so I asked them to go with a different guy there, other than that. So this Chris guy's going to start running the job. So, but then Brubacher and I, we're still in some rock. So, like a lot of rock, but not as much. So I contracted, and I think there was Springfield contractors. They have this trencher that they can go down 8 feet. So that then they can go 42 inches wide. So they're going to basically put a machine on site. The machine is like 250,000 pounds or something crazy.
And it goes through the rock.
And it's like a huge chainsaw.
Okay.
But it has diamond tips, and they do it mostly for gas lines. So for our sewer line, it's going to be, it's new to Brubacher, and they would rather blast. And I'd rather not blast if we can. Springfield there still is owned by Rod Krebs, but his son-in-law runs it. So they're going to move a piece of equipment in next week or the week after. So they're going to leave it on site. So when they hit rock, they'll be there, trench through it, and when Brubacher's not hitting rock, they're going to keep going.
Is that red sandstone or limestone?
It's mostly red sandstone. So he says he can rip through it much quicker. he says that he can do more footage than Brubacher could ever put in sewer in a day. So he'll probably trench some, and I have Brubacher, I'm paying them extra to, just because of safety, we're gonna backfill it every night. So even if they don't have stuff done, we're gonna backfill his rock drainage. So, and the interesting thing is it turns it into, backfill, because it crushes it to a point where we can use it. So it's like on a conveyor and this hauler, it piles it to the side, and we can pick which side. So the main sewer is not gonna be the problem, but we do have a lot of laterals that are a problem. And there was probably about, probably $400,000 of rock to the builders too, not the house sites. So we have cut that down considerably, and Shrinkfield's gonna do that work as well. So, they can, I've seen it in a video, I've never seen it in person, but they can put these X's where the rock is on a house footprint, and it's much less cost effective, or it's more cost effective for the builders.
So you use the trencher to put the sewer line to the house, you're saying?
Correct, the lateral, but then if they, where we've done all these tests, there's a bunch of houses that are gonna have 3 to 4 feet of rock. So they'll come in and put these, basically almost like tic-tac-toe, and then the excavator for the home can pop those piles of rock out, instead of blasting that too. So the blasting cost is just astronomical.
Yeah.
So that's really what we've been doing, and so now we'll be back at it, and still the same goal is, like we talked before, I think it's like here and here and up in here. We're gonna pave those first, I think it's 51 or 52. That's the gravity sewer that goes out to Conewago, and then all the rest, they'll work all winter, to get that done. So, and then as far as, just so you guys know, as far as phase 1 fillers, Garmin and Landmark, they both have, I think, like 70 to 75 people on the waiting list, each of them. And I think they each
That's
have,
pretty much the total.
yeah, well, divide that by 10%, divide that by,
Yeah.
and when they call and say, hey, are you ready by today? And you go, well, no.
Yeah.
So, but they each have, I think, 5 or 6 under contract already. So they're just waiting for me. So, Brubacher told me, probably the front 50 lots will be in paved in like 8 to 10 weeks. So just so you know. So in the front really is not the rock issue, it's further back in the creek. So, and then, I think I've told you this before, but we had a golf outing last October, and my goal is to build homes for wounded veterans. So from the golf outing through this year, I raised enough money to build 2 veterans homes for free. So lots 153 and 154, Freedom Square has already transferred them to the Pash Foundation. So out of the first 52, we're going to build 2 veterans homes, and then the builder will build the other 50.
How about the existing that you built?
So that's one of my questions.
Okay.
Remind me, Daryl, so I'll ask you when we get to phase 2. So the foundation, but now basically we can talk about it now because that's all I have. Unless you guys have questions for phase 1.
Well, why don't you take 10 seconds and dispel all the rumors about phase 1?
Well, there's always rumors about it.
Yeah. give us an update, or where do you stand? What's going on?
Well, basically, like I said, our biggest delay was the rock.
Okay.
So now we've, oh gosh, how long was that taking me? 6 months. So, and he's 6 months old, so that was some of the delay. So we're back at it, and the builders were just been waiting for me. But it was just, the rock was just astronomical, so we had to find a way to offset that. So the street height and all those type of things are what we've been doing during this time. So, All 13 or 14 ponds are built and they're seeded and look great. So we're good with DEP and all those type of things, or county conservation. So all those type of things are done. It looks like the land wasn't that way, but all the ponds are fully functional and green now. So so it's good.
How about, payments to the sewer authority and all that stuff?
Oh, so that was a big drama.
Yeah.
So so we were, oh gosh, I forget, I paid it. They inspected all that work. And then I got a letter saying, hey, we're not gonna inspect anymore. And I'm like, oh, I thought we had that worked out. I went to the authority and they said, well, come up with a proposal. Came up with a proposal and we sent a check for $5,000 and, that they could just, and we would pay every monthly bill, no problem. And then at the end, we were back and forth for months, and they said no. They didn't want to create a precedent in their reports, even though I already posted $1 million bond. They wanted, so I wrote them a check for $118,000. But how they typically do it, what we did differently is that they typically hold it like till every home's built, and that's their inspection thing. So we got them to agree that once we do all the mass work, we can, because even their engineers and Brubacher, they figured out it was only going to be like, I already paid $25,000 or $30,000 in inspections, and it was only going to be for the sewer another $20,000 or $30,000. So it's obviously $100,000 just sitting there for a couple of years is unrealistic. So they agreed that we could regroup and determine what that would be after we put the main in. So it was just, I thought we had it worked out and we kept working, and then I got a letter that, well, we cashed the check, but we didn't agree to that. Oh, well, that makes no sense. I thought you would have called me. So we just had to work through that.
Any other financials in the project?
So the only other one, I forgot about that actually. So, I don't even know if Derek knows this, but, so there's, right here, MedEd is doing all kinds of improvements this way. So, if I didn't want to do the development for, like 3-4 years, they'll have enough power on Conewago Road. So, but they don't have enough power for, us now. So what they want me to do is I'm gonna dig a trench to here, because eventually there'll be a box on the entrance, but we're gonna put the conduit in, but there's nothing gonna go there. And we're coming off of, the canal. So, because they have power on the canal. So you know where the, you probably guys don't remember, you know where the roundabout's gonna go?
Up there and on top,
So when you come off of the trail and you sort of go down and then you come back up. So before you get to, before you get to the roundabout.
Is there a better page? Is there a better sheet I can put up there that shows the whole?
I don't have it. You might not.
I have the whole PDF here, so you know which one you want.
So if you just pull up LD4, right there, LD4 of 70. Keep going, one more. Yeah, so it's probably easier for me to point out. Here's the this is Canal Road.
Yeah.
Here's the roundabout. So we worked it out with MedEd that we're putting temporary poles through here to get to here, and then as the development goes, we're going to work our way backwards and just take the pole down. So it was the only way to get power there. So it wasn't like the rock, but the electric was 200,000. They already got that check, and then what are those skids called there? The medic can drive on.
Oh, the
Those platforms.
boxes.
Yeah.
Like that.
Because they won't work in the mud.
Mud, oh, yeah.
I forget what they're called. They're like 8 by 16.
Mud mesh.
Yeah.
Mud mesh.
So
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
skids. So we're going to do that probably in October. So to get electric to phase 1, sounds crazy, I'm renting the mats and paying Brewbar to put them down and then taking them away in a month or whatever. That's $130,000. So to get electric there, it's like $330,000. So,
So if you want electric by October, then when do your builders, assuming today's, what's going on today, when do they feel they can have an occupancy and
so they're promising, I wouldn't say they're promising, because I'm not in those meetings, but they're telling people February, March.
February, March?
So, say it takes, Brewbacher's telling me 8 weeks, and it takes them 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Minute normally doesn't do this, but we worked it out. It took a bunch of meetings, but we're gonna put this in, and then we're gonna make sure that's perfectly to grade. So even if they're ready before we have curbs, because we want to get it in before the winter, they've agreed to as long as we stake it properly, which they never do, which I'm surprised. I've talked them into it, but they're gonna run that, whatever that is, that length. We're gonna put it in conduit, set those boxes, we'll be behind the curb. But if that section, because this is, like, we're gonna focus on these 50 lots, and they're coming here. So that phase probably, or that part of phase 1 won't have curbs yet, so they agreed to that. So it'll all be happening at the same time, but the first 50 is what I care about, because, obviously they'll work up the rest of the winter to get the rest of it done. So it's obviously it's easy on paper, but the project is so big. It's I think well, who knows? Maybe it's wrong. There's another issue, but it's like that electric. It's just when they did all their analysis, there just wasn't enough power. They're gonna. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know where they're doing it, but somewhere further in the township, they're improving it, making more power out there. So we'll tie in, and then it does like a loop, just like water likes a loop.
Sure.
Those type of things. And we're moving. Do you have another question?
Don't want to forget about Mrs. Dove's house.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. But
Okay.
for phase 1, that's pretty much in a round thing. Not that anybody at the township could have predicted those things, or I did a ton of research, but the minute thing, they thought they had enough power, and then they didn't have enough power, and then it's so it's temporary. But once we get to phase 1, it'll all be underground. So that took us, oh my gosh, tons of meetings, tons of just tons to figure that out. And then RGS said that, basically, because I didn't want to try to be working in the next phase, and then there's boulder in the middle of the street, so we had to line up that they're behind the curb, so that when we take it down, we could be putting curbs in, and then just that becomes last power. So, again, this project, it's the phase 1 job, basically what we're doing. And then we'll talk about phase 2, but just while I have you, we're gonna put this in. So this will be probably phase 3. So we'll work down that street a little bit to try to get that happening. And RGS is working on that day.
On your plan, it's called phase 4, and 3 is your wetlands. So is that be a correction to make?
You will have to make a modification as we go. Yeah. And the other reason to go to phase 2, the only reason that we're going that way, I'd rather go the other way.
Yeah.
But we promised DEP that we wouldn't, the next phase, we wouldn't ask for any help. Because phase 2, there's, you guys probably don't, you have the final. And I made some copies. I don't know if you guys have you got they all have it?
You sure?
Phase 2. So we had to do all kinds of layouts. I think we did 5 or 6 layouts, and originally we had all kinds of wetland issues, and we narrowed that down. We mitigated it down to like a 1/4 acre wetlands disturbance. So, then, like you just asked, the master plan was this way, and then phase 1, the master plan was something totally different. Then we had wetlands that so phase one street basically was going straight, and now because of, we thought
Phase two, you're a peninsula.
we thought they would let us go through some of that, but, DEP made us go like that. So originally it was straight. So we had to do some, and here there's this, here's the dove house, and there's some, like marshy area right there. So we had to work around all kinds of layouts just to get that to happen. So we had tons of DEP meetings. They're all Zoom. You know, there's like 30 people in a square, and they ask the questions. So we worked through all that, and everybody, as far as the wetlands situation, this was the best and the least invasive that we could come up with. And not that I need it today, but as I promised you and the board and CS Davidson, our biggest thing is that joint permit. I don't know if Mark and Ben might know
That was handled 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So
Consistency letters.
So there's a DEP in their guidelines. We found out that we thought we'd be able to put that in, but to make the cover right, what was that road there? DEP said you can't cover so much pipe.
It deals with, your joint permit was triggered by your waterway classification and your acreage.
Yeah.
So the issue is the size of the crossing, because of the size of the wetlands, kicked you in this bigger permit. Correct.
And
If you're filling in the floodplain or floodway, then you're automatically in the joint permit.
So we pushed that so that we could get phase two to you, so that Derek could review that, because DEP wanted this joint permit part of phase two. And then to answer your question, Ben, about phase three, they said, can you not come back to us for at least one phase?
Sure.
Without saying, so right in that area, there's not even a tenth of an acre of wetlands that we have to ask for. So that's why we're making sure that they're moderately satisfied. So before we get into some of these other things, you guys might know this, you might not. One of the guys that works for me, he's been with me like 30-some years, so I'm giving him that house. So he's gonna move in, but we just have to work through with Derek, and we have to come up with a way that if we work on phase one, he moves in, how do we get him out when we're putting the street in phase two? So that's just what I have to work on. So we'll come to Mark and we're not going to get started until probably this winter or spring. I'm not sure exactly when that happens. We'll probably do that. Renovating that house. No one lived there for a while.
Is the alarm system still active, or what's active back there? Mrs. doesn't have a fire alarm system.
You know what? I haven't been there.
Question.
No, I have a statement about that. The electricity is on
Yeah.
because the floodlights are on, so unless they, have dismantled it, it's probably still on.
Okay.
But it probably isn't, because I know I'm not paying a bill.
Okay.
So I know the power's on, but as far as a service, I know I'm not paying like a security service or a fire service.
Yeah. Just curious. Okay.
So as far as phase two, if you already have the drawing, like I said, we worked through a bunch of that.
Can I interject on phase one quick before we go on? First of all, I want to.
Stand by, guys. Stand by.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for coming tonight and just giving everybody an update. Obviously, there was lots of questions going on about where you're at.
Yeah, just set that.
Yeah, so a lot of work going on in the last 2 months. Please keep us informed.
Yep.
This is what I, not only this township, but me personally, because I have to have an inspector out there.
Yep.
And Tim, I just looked, the last correspondence I had from you on this was on June 25th. And you were pushing me to get your approvals done because Brubacher was going to start the next week. So now we're 2 months down the line, and now the next week again. I hope it is for you. But I've got to get mine today. So let me know, because I have to get an inspector scheduled, and I can't just pull one of those out of my butt this time of year. So, so we need to.
They told me it would be 2 weeks
Get a little
ago,
better.
and then we were supposed to have a meeting today, and I emailed them and said, hey, I'm not gonna have a meeting until I see some iron, and so when there's equipment there, we'll have a meeting. So, they said that's gonna happen this week, so we'll see. Now, they do have some of the big equipment that they're bringing in, they have to get permits for, but those permits aren't really that hard to get. They're just, oversized living permits. And,
You goes,
yeah, no problem. There wasn't really, I didn't have any true answers until this recently, but, we're getting there.
Okay. Does the board have any more questions on phase one?
Yeah, you may have answered this. What is stopping you from starting phase one? And if we recommend not approving your actions today, will you start phase one? Or are you waiting for phase two to actually start everything as of today?
No, I think when you came in late, I was telling them, we had York water, sewer, but we hit a ton of rock.
Yeah.
So that was our biggest thing.
But are you able to start phase one if your actions are not recommended today? Will you start in phase one?
Yeah, there's no correlation between the two.
Yeah, all these waivers on the docket are for phase two.
Okay.
So what I can interject is what we did as part of phase one, there's a developer's agreement in place. We discussed the importance of the culvert connection on Taylor Drive so that you get, two entrances to the site. What the concern was kind of going through phase one is we didn't want phase one to progress all the way to the end and the culvert wasn't done. Now, as Mr. Pash mentioned earlier, the hydrology for phase two had to be completed such to design that culvert and permit it. So the hydrology for that culvert and ultimately the joint permit attached to it was all part of the phase two efforts. For phase one, I think we let them build about half of the houses in the developer's agreement. The submission of the joint permit opens up a couple more streets, and then once that culvert goes in, then it releases the rest of the building permit for phase one. So,
and to add to Derek, and basically, we had to get consistency letter from the sewer authority, and we had to get 2 from Derek for stormwater and for engineering. So we got those love letters from everybody, so we can DEP's changing the rules. So it's like the chicken and the egg, and so we really had to. Phase 2 has nothing to do with phase 1, but eventually it'll have something to do with that culvert with phase 1. It's really not. Phase 2 is required to be approved by you guys to have that happen. It's more, we had to do all the engineering work for phase 2 to figure out what that permit was. Do you know what I mean? So
DEP can have you could be looking at a 9 to 12 month review process on this. These joint permits take, and it could be quickly as 6, but these joint permits take a long time. So what DEP likes to see is they like to see that the site's been designed and meets all the local requirements, and that the local municipality doesn't have any changes or the conservation district doesn't have any changes, so that once this thing gets in DEP's kind of queue, there aren't going to be any major modifications between now and the end of the review process. So that's a big part of why they make you go through that is, I can tell as a project manager when you're laying things out, the DEP permit's the longest length. So normally you try to get that done first, and you can get your township approvals kind of in between. They want the township approvals basically done and then submit because they don't want to have to review it twice because it already takes them 6 to 12 months to review it once. Yeah. So that's kind of some of the why behind it. So the board knows, we did C.S. Davidson issued consistency letters for the stormwater design and the floodplain because the technical elements of the hydraulic design done for phase 2 does meet your ordinance outside of some administrative comments. That's traditional. The issuance of the stormwater and the floodplain consistency letters do not mean approval of the plan. That's the planning commissions and the supervisors. But I can sign off on the technical ends of the letters before we get to the end. Okay. Just so you guys all know where you're at.
Okay, let's hold our questions to phase 1. Okay. Agreed? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Your turn.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Mr. Project.
Tim's.
Okay, a resident here looked up the taxes on this, and it's showing that there is $82,000 in back taxes on this project. Not only that, they're now taking it out of clean and green.
That's right.
So you're talking now that's 7 more years of taxes. how will this affect the township and the development of this project?
No, so that's two things at the same time. So to make this phase one, not in clean and green. So when we recorded the plan, we had to take phase one out of clean and green, but, York County took the whole thing out of clean and green. So then we had to resubmit. So, they're reviewing all that now. So the clean and green of phase one, I believe, was that 20?
Yes, it's all right.
So the bill for, so clean and green, basically you have to pay 7 years of back taxes, right? So I don't know what that number's gonna be yet, so it's probably gonna be.
Currently what they said was one office said it's 82,000 in back
Correct.
taxes right now. And then we called the other one, they said, we're taking it out of clean and green and that will be added on because it's so far behind. That, they said that was the reason for taking out.
Well, that's not true. So, I mean, because I do this every day,
I
so,
understand.
the clean and
We're good at
green.
researching. I just want you to know, we're really good at researching.
So the $81,000 is if you took the whole farm out of clean and green. So that would be 7 years of back taxes. So, but I only own for phase one. So they're gonna we resubmitted the clean and green for the rest of the farms. And so they'll adjust that and whatever they do, and if we, can't come to a number short term, we'll post it and then we'll figure it out later. It happens all the time. The clean and green is like a mess, it's always a mess.
Well, I'm being told that it's 82,000 plus the clean and green. That's what I'm being told. And I know this person pretty well who did this research, and I can tell you, he'll keep an eye on
Okay,
That has nothing to do with this.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is about phase one. First, I'd like to know, are all the utilities gonna be underground? Including electric, everything will be underground for the entire project?
Mhm.
And then
Well,
second.
That's not true, because, Mark, where's that, LD4? So, like I said, these will be temporary, because we gotta get electric from here, from Canal, so we'll be set, I think it's 10 or 12 poles, but as the development grows, they'll go away.
So,
Do
and
you know what I mean?
Yes.
So temporarily, they'll, do poles, but I don't think they do any developments anymore overheads. I don't think I have. So,
Okay.
well, everything's underground.
And then the second question, Derek might be able to answer this, all of that pipe, plastic, manholes, all of that material's been laying out in the weather since February. Will that all be inspected before it's installed? Because I'm sure there's some deterioration.
Probably negligible.
Plastic goes underground.
Yeah, I don't have a concern about it being laid out for a year. In a lot of cases, they
The
lay out longer than that
concrete, all of
before you
that?
get them. What's that?
The concrete, anything like that?
No, not in one season. I don't think anything. The biggest issue could be the UV rays on the plastic. I have no that concrete pipe lay out there for 50 years probably and still be okay. You have to watch sometimes on the plastic pipe, but 1 year UV exposure on a corrugated metal or corrugated plastic pipe, I don't have any concerns. But
Because
good question, though.
typically buy it,
It's
so
a really good question.
it's usually laying out for, when they make it, it's not all sold at that time too, so it's laying out anyway.
Okay, let me piggyback on question. Mark, what's going on? Is that gas line going in down there? There's gas line down on the ball field parking lot?
Yeah, so UGI is working on our project now. They're getting ahead of the Canal Road Betterment project. So that's for the intersection of Canal and Trail.
Okay.
So they're putting that in now. They're starting on the Manchester side. They have to come under the creek.
Yeah.
So they're boring underneath the creek now, coming up, and they're gonna hit.
So
the
that has
intersection.
nothing to do with Mr. Patch's project?
I don't know if it has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
It might be adding capacity to it, but the main purpose was to get ahead of the Canal Road Betterment.
Okay, wonderful.
It sort of does, Daryl, but not like Mark's saying, when I met with Columbia Gas, I don't know how many years ago now, but they have budgeted funds to continue to improve their gas up here, because it needs improvements, it's old, those things.
Okay. Another question?
Not right now, I do for phase two.
You had a question?
Yeah, about the electric, the reason I have concerns is because I live back, and when Bennett Run went in, my house experienced a lot of brownouts. We had like disrupted service. Matter of fact, the Med Ed man gave me, the engineer there gave me his personal phone number, and anytime we had a brownout, I had to call him. What is, like, we have data centers supposedly maybe coming into the area, which we know, we're concerned about electricity for that. And for all your houses, you were explaining about the Med Ed saying they didn't have enough power. So what are they doing to, because like when this storm went through the other night, we were told that it would be fixed in a certain amount of time, and I guess more calls came in. We're kind of isolated back there, so we were without electricity for 24 hours.
So what I know, I just pay for it, and we dig the ditch, so, Med Ed's telling me they have more than enough power on Canal Road to serve the whole building. So for me, even in all the phases, so they have tons of power on, I don't know the kilowatts, but they have a excessive amount of electric on Canal Road. And that's why they're trying to get ahead of the future and improving Copenhagen in the next few years. I don't know if that's a year or 5 years, but I know Med Ed is continually improving their electric. I'm not saying, all their overhead stuff is, I'm sure they have more trouble with that because of storms. All developments we put in, we never have electric issues.
Yeah, but I'm on the tail end, so you
Right. Right. So like anything overhead, where I live, it's all overhead. So we lost power the other day for 8 hours. So everybody in the neighborhood has a generator because the grocery store. But in the new, I know that doesn't help you, but I know for the Freedom Square, there's plenty of them.
Yeah, well, see, I just got tired of Township, like, Copenhagen Park, Cloverleaf Road, Carolina. So, there's gonna be an extra 2,000 cars a day coming in and out. So basically, that one there was so sorry for your life. And now with my electricity, so sorry for my life. I'm kind of tired of improvements, what we consider improvements, and I'm getting SOA, I'm just like, I just don't appreciate that people that have in here are kind of pushed to the side, but, I just.
Okay, thank you. Good point. Yes, sir.
How you doing? I live at 9 jobs in Russian Drive. Question I have is like in one of these phases.
Can you stand up or come closer? I can't hear you.
And one of these phases, you have a tower that goes always down to somebody's houses, but there's certain towers. The problem is it's up to 400 degrees. It's going to release degrees. If I can be down to somebody's house, it's going to be an open field.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I have no clue what
yes,
you're
so it's like there like the towers that they used to have the power. So these certain towers that
The high
power.
tension ones.
Yes. So those are the mid 400 degree based on your
So
blood.
what are you talking about for Freedom Square then?
Yeah, this is not
Freedom
the.
Square. Okay, that's for every mile.
No, sir, the subject right now is phase one of Freedom Square.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Okay?
I mean, I know there's high tower over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming right through.
I apologize.
Yeah, we're not on that subject whatsoever.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
If you, we'll give you 5 minutes in the future here. If you want to make a general public comment, we'll accept that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Yep, sure.
Thank you. Okay, I'm assuming everything is finished with phase one. Okay.
Bob Savage, 736 East Canal. I don't know. I was just had a question about where that roundabout is going on Canal Road.
So I was explaining to them, here is the trail. And Mark might know, the Betterment project is here. And then you come down and then you go back up. There's a dip there.
Yep.
And then we'll have one entrance to the neighborhood. And then the roundabout, let me see that square?
Yeah.
That's the pump station.
Okay.
To give you an idea. So, that first white house? on Canal. I own that, and that's gonna be probably right there, so it'll come down.
So hopefully we're gonna fix a lot of the stormwater issues along that section.
There, but I think that
Yeah, I just drove through there today, it's a pretty good washout. I noticed, on Canal, there's quite a bit of washout coming out of the field.
I think the first one is gonna be at Dottie's, that'll happen before this one.
Okay.
So for, you want to talk, sorry?
No, I was just gonna say, are we ready to move into the request of these waivers for phase 2?
So just, and Derek can talk as well, but just so you guys know, well, you talk, remember.
Yeah, I think before we jump to waiver action, Daryl, I think we just talk about phase 2. What's proposed? What's the, let's let Tim present the plan and.
So basically, gosh, Mark, I don't know what page it's on where it's just that.
They want all of this basin?
Yeah.
L9.
One more maybe. Should have both of them.
Yeah.
One more maybe. Right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a stormwater one.
Yeah.
But to give you an idea, Ben, to answer your question, we thought we'd be able to put houses here. We thought we'd be able to put houses all along here. And I thought we'd have another street here. So in the master plan, the lots are much more. I don't know. I think it's like 12, maybe 16 more. But we just couldn't squeeze. We just couldn't with the wetlands and stuff that are there. We couldn't. So this is, I think, 50. I think that's 50, and this is 80. So 54 singles and 80 towns.
So everything in the dark is phase 2?
Correct. So this will connect phase 2 singles to phase 1. And then this will connect that we've been talking about. Right here, this is Presidential Lane, which ties into Taylor, but that's where that culvert goes. And then these are 80 townhouses, which tie into the townhouses right next door in Bennett Rock. So that's sort of why I designed that, as far as that. If they were built, I wouldn't say all, but we get calls all the time, townhouses, just because prices are so expensive that, back in the day, a townhouse and a single were pretty close, so everybody bought a single. Now the singles are so much more expensive, so that first-time home buyers buying that townhouse. So we have a lot more calls for the towns.
So your intent for phase 2 is those townhouses would be sold each to individuals, not rentals?
That's the goal.
Unless somebody else buys.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So like our goal is, and Mark was showing you, down here there's some singles, and then that's where I build those garden apartments. So I don't really want to build the garden apartments and have townhouses competing with it, so I'd rather sell them.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what the.
So they're all individual lots then? All those townhouses?
I don't think, are they there?
They're individual lots.
They have to be if you're gonna sell them.
We can make it.
Condo them.
We condo, like normally when we do townhouses.
Okay.
I was like, I don't think so. Because we normally make a condo.
Okay.
And then they call it a condominium so that we can sell it and they can get a mortgage. You basically, their deed is their foundation.
Well, yeah, they're
cut out.
They're all
They're all individual lots. Right, they're all individual lots. Each one has a number.
Well, yeah, they'll have a number, but it might be one group.
Yeah, they're not individual lots, I don't believe. The units are numbered, but you're not letting them up.
It's one apartment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to answer we've done all the work, we've done all those wetland studies, we had to do all kinds of probes and, for wetlands and all through here. And I don't have a good picture, but somewhere, just so you guys see that. So the drain is, the biggest issue that we have is this sewer why we had to get DEP is because this sewer and then it's going to get to your line in the creek. So that's, see the neck green is, so these are the singles. Not really any problem there, but we have to get the sewer past that wetlands over in to get to more wetlands to higher the creek.
Yeah.
So that was our biggest, Larry, that's our biggest hurdle with that green. So, I mean, that's what we submitted, and that's what we're working, with DEP. I think we've had so many meetings, I don't know if it'll be, an issue, I'm sure they'll have comments, but, and then to Derek's point, we've gone back and forth with Derek, and RGS does, obviously works, for me. And, they basically now, I think, I think Derek's, we're down to basically administrative things, so I think we pretty much answered that.
Administrative and traffic. In this last revision, I'm asking for some additional traffic evaluation.
And, I read that, and we've already contracted, TBD, who did the rest they did, the master, and they did phase one, and, he said, we'll put it in queue, because I don't think there will be, it's not enough units to affect it. But I can't think of the word right now.
Level of service.
Level of service. So, but he said I have to do it. So we already gave him purchase order, he's gonna do that, and we'll, basically to answer your question, we'll abide to whatever the township requirement is, or the ordinances. Is that in the ordinance?
Yeah, we have a standalone traffic.
So we'll adhere to that. So, if, that is a concern, well, obviously, Derek would want you to, but, if you choose to approve that, we'll just make that a condition.
Is there something on the August 19th letter that you want to review?
My only my question before we jump in, Tim, you have a waiver of the preliminary plan on there. You want to do that?
We can do it, or we can do it, I think Chris really wanted to do that more than, I don't really know a lot here.
Okay. I mean, the issue.
Hey guys, this is important, you want to pay attention, please.
It's easier to go right to the final.
It's less approvals for you to go right into the final, but the minute you go to final, you got to push your bond.
Right.
So if you're not going to build those facilities, and I think the issue is you can't build half of it until treatment plant upgrade happens.
Correct.
So honestly, kind of looking out for you a little bit.
I think Chris likes that preliminary final, because he's doing the job for me, and he goes, I think we should do it. It's only like 50 townhouses. So
Is this the same back and forth we did on phase one, where you want to do the preliminary final? Yeah, again, I think the reason that the MPC is set up this way is it allows you to get in, like, unfortunately, you went to final on phase one. I believe that's, no, wait a minute, you did
we went preliminary.
You preliminary on phase one, so have you posted a bond for phase one yet?
Oh yeah, it's all recorded in there.
Phase one final is?
Yeah.
I know preliminary is.
Phase one's all recorded, we have all the lot numbers.
The lots are created, so I guess what I'm thinking is, so you recorded phase one final, and that's been recorded now for what?
Since last October.
So you're in, you've had all of the permanent improvements bonded. You wouldn't have had to put that bond up until you really wanted to start building houses, so that's a whole new bonding.
I'm not opposed to that, because, I mean, for them, it's really just them or myself coming back to another meeting and saying, hey, you approved the preliminary, do you mind if we changed the letter, it said final, then we just have to come back.
Here's how
this one is, I would envision the singles will happen sooner than we might put we definitely connect the joint, permit.
Sure.
Connect that culvert.
Which would be fine, because that's a public improvement.
And we probably, I own 70, I think. 70, more sewer use that are left in the township. I just pay a reserve for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we would probably do these, I don't know if that adds to 20, but the singles and then put this street in and then just go that way.
Okay.
So, and I don't know, did you tell them about the sewer?
No, well, they're aware of so you have why don't you tell them, you have an agreement in place or?
So we did it, so, again, the chicken and the egg, DEP and the joint permit, and so I went to the authority and they were okay with that part. So we went under agreement that we all understand that I have 70 EDUs or 71 or whatever it is. And then the balance of those EDUs will be available when the plant is open or expanded upon. But it was the best way. I signed it, sewer authority signed it. I can get you a copy of it if you don't have it yet. But, and then, but we're submitting that with our DEP permit so we can get our joint permit. So it's like, okay, we gotta get this, to get that, to keep moving forward. So obviously, we could build the street, we just couldn't, tie it into sewer, we don't have sewer capacity. So we have some, and if I didn't wanna do the singles, let's say the singles are slow, we could do maybe townhouses and not tie in 10, and then we could then connect. Well, one way or another, we're gonna connect it to the run, because that's obviously our second entrance.
Yeah.
Or exit, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So as far as the, what we've gone through as far as phase 2, I mean, we're basically, and no problem with the traffic, Craig Malott does tons of work for us, and he said we just get it in the schedule. So, and then sewer, obviously there's, not much I can do about that other than we do an agreement if we want to make that agreement contingent on seeing that, or whatever you would like. And the waivers, is not to jump ahead, I'll answer your other question. All those waivers, I think Ben asked about, all those waivers are basically what we did in phase 1 as well. So it's because I said to Chris, I'm like, well, we already have those. He goes, well, for the record, your engineer and the township wants to, have them for each phase. And then they're on the plan, right?
That's right, yeah.
So they've already been approved for the other phase. I don't know if it's an issue, but.
Yeah, I'm not concerned, I'm not concerned with any of the waivers requested. I just want to talk, I wanted to talk through the preliminary final. Because I know, when we approved, when the township approved the conditional use for this, one of the conditions of the conditional use was there would be a preliminary and a final for each phase that comes through. Now, on this one in particular, what I shared with Chris Narchik when I spoke with him last, or during our numerous conversations, kind of how I envision this is with the delay you're going to have potentially getting here and not having the sewer capacity. What made sense to me was to have a preliminary plan approved for the whole layout, and then you do a kind of a phase 2A final that would create the lots and allow you to build the permits for the pieces you had capacity for.
Almost like we're doing phase 1. It's not the same, but we're doing the 50 because the sewer's going this way.
Yeah.
And the other 116 or whatever they are going that way.
Well, it's kind of, so you may, again, I appreciate that you probably want the flexibility to move to towns if they're going to sell better than the singles. So if that's the case, I would prefer we do a final plan for the towns and you establish that as a condo and we don't create the lots for the singles if they can't be hooked up to sewer. That's what I'm concerned about, is I don't want lots created that don't have sewer capacity, and using something to use, you come in with the final. As you said, it would be a mostly administrative task to come through with the final. You're just matching.
And I think that, like you said, I think that, I forget which one of you guys had that question, but, the master plan, it was more units, but we just have to keep adapting. Sure. The singles versus the towns, we never know. I mean, obviously, one is doing really well, and if the rates drop, because if they ever will, then the singles will be busier than the towns. We just don't know. And that's why we have to, and like Derek said, what did they tell me? Jacob
Seekers?
Yeah. So he said, I don't know if you guys know this, you probably know better than I do, but I think they're telling me next year they'll be building it and it'll be operational in 28. Is that real? That's what they're telling me.
That's what the scuttlebutt is.
That's what I'm told.
Yeah.
So, and he gave me some, I can't memorize them, but he gave me some, hey, we're permit this, hey, we're, they're through, I think, all their technical reviews and all that with DEP. I think it's more just, how are they proceeding? Because I know that, I think they're going to do it in 2 stages, right?
Yeah.
I think they're doing 900 EDUs or something like that, and I need 2,000 or whatever the numbers are, 2,700 or whatever. So then they're going to add to the plant
You're right, their
10 years or something.
drawings did say 2 stages.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I won't be here, but my son will be
yeah,
on that time.
okay.
So, globally, I think it's close to what our master plan that was approved and recorded. It's close, but it's not, exact because we haven't cut these out.
Anything else in the letter, Gary?
Well, I think we should, so before we go, we'll leave the waivers for the very end.
Okay.
I just want to talk through a couple points in the letter, just so everybody understands what's in there. I'm gonna breeze through, so a lot of these are administrative comments. Some of them are a little redundant, some of them are advisory, but I have a job to put them on there. Talking on the sewer, we'll jump right onto that, number 4. So you have a memorandum of understanding that should be enough to have a planning module prepared, and then that'll go to DEP. So we haven't seen that planning module yet. We haven't seen that submission yet. So that's something we'll need to do.
Sure.
So, and DEP, again, in the past, probably phase 1, you went through an exemption. DEP is probably gonna make you go through a full planning module on this, just because of the capacity constraints and the hydraulic overload on the facility, so.
Now, Chris told me that he thought we should have it, I was just counting on by March or April, but that is, almost 9 months. The joint permit.
You're talking about,
well,
you're talking about the culvert, yeah, culvert joint permit, yeah,
Just
that's
saying
what I said.
That, joint permit, we should have by the spring. Not that we really have to have it by the spring, but, you know, if, to go back to phase 1, if Brubacher gets rolling, we're building houses and they're finishing and they run into trouble in the winter and they finish in the spring, they go out that permit and before they leave, they can put that and we can connect it. So
the joint permit is from DEP for the culvert, and that's what I said to you guys was a 6 to 12 month process, so you just confirmed 9 months. The planning module is the DEP sewer approval, so that's something separate. So in the first phase, you were able to do a planning module waiver because you already had the capacity reserved. What I know is the Carvana development we brought up previously, they also had the capacity reserved, but because the plant is hydraulically overloaded currently, they had to do additional analysis to prove that those EDUs were still valid. So I suspect the DEP will make you go through a full planning module, especially with the MOU you have for future capacity.
Sure.
So we're just kind of gonna let RGS know and get that into us when we can. That'll take a little bit till DEP approves that. So that's kind of a big one because that's a preliminary plan requirement to make sure that planning module gets submitted and approved. Normally, again, I normally wouldn't hold up a conditional approval because it's an outside agency review, but on this one, I'd at least like to see it prepared and submitted so we can kind of run our approvals concurrently. You have your NPDES requirement, which is number 5. So that's their county permit that they need. We have number 6 in here, which is the joint permit we just talked about. There's a lot of outside agency review there. Comment 7 about the financial security, that goes away if we're only gonna do a preliminary plan.
Right.
You don't have to bond anything with preliminary. To explain.
I don't think we even, not to interrupt, but we didn't even work on the bond analysis.
No, there's been
There's no financial quantities done yet.
He said if you're,
do that at the end.
think to yourself when the quickest is you think you might build a house in phase 2.
It could be the end of 27.
It might be, yeah, so.
Or next fall.
Right.
You know, if everything's going great, like the builders predict, and that type of thing, because obviously, you know, we all know that here is basically the last, developable, non-developed area farmland in York County, basically. So there's interest because people want houses. So if that's going well, Brubacher might stay. And, by the time they're done and we have a preliminary or whatever, and keep going, they might just keep going. And I don't know what that'll be, but it could be next summer.
That makes sense. So, timing wise, first quarter and the second quarter next year, you kind of make a decision as to where you want to proceed, go singles or go towns. And that's
We'll know
that, yeah. that's when you submit your final for whatever you want to build then, and you get your approval and construct that before the treatment plant upgrades are done with your reserve EUs. And by the end of 28, build the rest.
And again, I know it's off topic. I don't remember what phase that was talking about. Our ultimate goal is to get over to Lewisberry and do retirement homes, because that's, you know, we get a phone call about retirement homes. But we need capacity to do that. So in 28, we'll probably start working on that fourth phase or whatever. And, you know, eventually there'll probably be 4 different phases going on. We'll be over here trying to get retirement going. We'll be over here in the back where we are now. And eventually they'll all tie together.
So I do want to talk about comment 8 a little bit, which is the traffic comment. And I appreciate that Craig Malott will be working on something. Craig does a nice job. We are, and just so Craig knows, I am looking for some traffic counts on Conewago. The issue that I had as I reviewed the traffic plan from the initial is that traffic data was collected in April of 2021. So not only 5 years ago, but I also look at the back end of the pandemic, and I know there are a lot of people still working from home then. So I'm concerned that the volume that was analyzed in 21 might be a little low compared to what we're experiencing out there today. Your impact may prove to be negligible, which I get it, but I'd like to see some updated current traffic counts on Conewago so that we can make better decisions about any intersection, any improvements that we want.
It doesn't specifically say that. It says that I'll talk to Craig.
Yeah, so here's what happened is, the traffic counts in your conditional use plan were collected in 2021. When phase one came through, Craig did an analysis based on all of the developments that he knew to be going on, plus your development to prove kind of no impact in phase 1. But the issue I have is, all right, now we're back 5 years, and we're kind of putting in assumed data, and we think this is going to be built, now this might be built. It's all kind of fake numbers to this point. I think that projection forward was accurate for a couple of years.
I don't know if that specifically is in his purchase order.
Check. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about
I'll email Craig.
He's welcome to call me and talk through it, but just based on some of the comments we've heard here at Planning Commission supervisors meetings, that's a big concern of the residents is traffic, so we definitely want to take a look at that. And I was just a little uncomfortable that the data was as old as it was. Okay. And that's basically it as far as the actual comments. So everything else is administrative. We can talk about waivers if you'd like.
Okay, so we're ready
now, Daryl.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we're going to address all 5 or 6 with a separate issue. The first one, I think we've all heard, Gary, probably better to not grant that.
No, the first one is under stormwater management ordinance, the drainage easements.
Wait a minute, I'm going off of our agenda. What are you going off of?
I don't know what your agenda says.
303.
Oh, you see, okay, sorry. My letter is a reverse of your agenda, so
okay.
Go ahead.
Daryl, can we make any comments before you do that, or do you want to wait till after?
I'll tell you what, I'll take comments as we work on each waiver.
Okay.
All right. So right now, we're going to work on section 303 to allow a waiver of the preliminary plan.
You want to withdraw that?
We can just withdraw that.
Okay.
We'll just make it easier.
Okay. So that's
Chris is right. He's not here, so it's fine.
Perfect.
I forget. I think he's at another meeting or something.
Okay. Moving on to number 2, section 520, to allow an easement to be established over an existing waterway. Tell us where, please.
So traditionally, when we go through developments, and you'll see this as another comment under stormwater management, we're going to do this again. Our ordinance requires kind of easements to be put in to protect waterways. What the developer has requested is that we get towards the end of this and basically record one big instrument for the entire development. Normally, I'm not comfortable with that. In this situation, I am. We have a conditional use plan in place which governs the kind of the impact of this development. But what I'm seeing here is as these phases go on, none of the construction or none of the impact of the residential lots is on the drainage ways. So basically all of the water courses or the sensitive areas like wetlands are all contained within residual lots that are to be retained either by the developer or the HOA. So I think in the way that this has been cut up, you've already kind of banked yourself protection on those. We still need to record it at the end, but at this point, I think save the legal cost and the headache of having 10 documents. I don't think you have any issues with protection of watersheds based on how this is laid out right now. So that's why I'm.
To further that,
yeah.
What DEP, keep blaming the,
I see.
What they're concerned about is that they don't want us, say, phase 1 and then phase 2, and then we go, oh, because of sewer or something, we made an easement, and now we have to go to DEP and say, hey, can we take an acre of that easement away? And they're like, we don't want that. So they also want to wait until the whole development's done. They've asked, it's in here somewhere, every time we go for a permit, they ask RGS and they have to predict on everything that's happening all the way on to Lewisberry Road, and they're like, well, we don't know. We've done 2 phases and they both had to change. So, so we don't, for you guys and for us and DEP, it will be better if we just do it at the end.
None of the easements run into Bennett Run then?
No. They're all ours, and like Derek said, we're not designing, any wetlands that are on lots. I mean, we're protecting, all of them basically. Like, we need a permit, but even that, it's less than a quarter acre, but we still need a permit to, and we, Derek can maybe explain it better, but we reached out to a wetlands land bank group. So we'll just, like that quarter acre, and then you pay like a land bank guy, they have wetlands over here, so it's almost like a 2-to-1 ratio, but we're not adding it here. We have like 200 acres of wetlands. We're not.
So what you have here is since this development has gone through DEP wetland permitting, that's not something we see on every development. So the ordinance has kind of a catch-all that says, you need I can't remember if it's 10 or 20 off the top of my head, but you need to put an easement over top of natural water courses, and that protects them from any encroachment. We see this, Bennett Run's a good example, where we have them over the swales so you can't put fences in the middle. Again, everywhere on this plan where there is a natural water course or a wetland, you see it shaded. And the only place they're really encroaching is where the culvert is, and that's currently under DEP joint permit review. So that's really, this is less of a comment about protection of our watersheds and more of a kind of a legal proceeding and having to record that document. So that's why I'm comfortable just waiting to get it done till the end, because DEP is overseeing all impact on any wetland or stream that goes through this property right now. Okay?
Okay, does any board member have a question on number 2? Hearing none, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you something here, and I have a question on why. When they came out and marked the wetlands, I was back and talked to the gentleman, and they marked one right here. It's a seasonal pond, and you can see it when you walk back there, and it drains right down through here. Why is that not showing on here?
I'm not the wetlands guy, so.
The flags disappeared. They magically disappeared when the flags were put in. So that would be a question that I have. And I'm only asking because I grew up in Shiloh and there were springs everywhere. And those developers went in and they put houses, and then people's, their pads in their garages would crack up, and that's what's gonna happen in this area.
How do we handle that question, Derek?
So I think the right answer here is basically the wetland delineation was completed, and it's whatever DEP has approved and accepted is kind of what we have to go by. DEP is the jurisdictional department here, so DEP has signed off on this, which those wetland delineations will be checked whenever the NPDES permit is submitted. So that that is what triggers that, is you would have gone through the wetland delineation and ultimately it's called a PNDI, the Natural Diversity Index. So all of those clearances need to be proven for the Conservation District to approve their NPDES construction permit. Now, I know that you did a wetland delineation out there and then you had to go back and do another one after DEP. Right, because did DEP reject your first one, or they came back out and said, wait, things have changed? It was because the site sat so long, right?
Well, it was because also, the Army Corps or DEP didn't agree. The Army Corps was, like you were saying, Army Corps said, oh, that's not important, that's not in our jurisdiction, and DEP's over here. That's why we have that, on phase one. When you drive into Conewago, there's like this, I don't know, it's 2,000 square feet on a little, it looks like a farm tractor made this ditch, and, but DEP wanted it. So when you drive in, there's this strange little non-lot, and then there'll be a house, so it'll sit wet all the time. But that was important to them, so we just went around. So, and RGS, as Darren knows, RGS, I mean, they're land at their offices. He is like the wetlands guru, and he's with DEP all the time. Like, you know, they work on all these things. So it could have been there, and they might have thought it was diminished. So I'm not sure. I didn't study it.
So honestly, what I will say is the short answer is if you have any concerns over wetlands that were delineated or weren't delineated, call the DEP central office is where I would go. That's one. Look, we aren't from the township side going to argue whether it's a wetland or not. DEP has jurisdiction, and because DEP has already overseen and kind of ruled on the wetland study that was provided, that's not something I looked at intently as part of this review. But again, any concerns you have, you're welcome to reach out to them and get those answers.
Okay, are we ready for action on number 2 to allow an easement to be established over an existing water?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll second
Okay. All those in favor, you're recommending approval? Right. What you're saying, okay. All those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay, section 505E to allow a dead-end street. Where is that place?
Pledge Court.
That's pointed out on
it. See how it comes down and then it loops?
So then, what's in the middle? What is that in the middle? Just parking, grass?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then there'd be parking in the middle. So it's a loop, but it's not really a cul-de-sac. So.
Yeah, it's a new age cul-de-sac, we'll call it. So it doesn't technically meet the ordinance requirement of a cul-de-sac. It doesn't really meet the definition of a loop road, but.
So we're calling it a dead-end street.
That's the best thing I can come up with, but I think for the, again, for the use that we're talking about, I'd have concerns about that configuration if those were all single-family homes, and, these are gonna be private streets as well.
Yeah, so I think what we worked out, this was so long ago, like this, Terry and Derek wanted to make sure all the main roads were public.
Right.
And then this would be private. Like these will all be public eventually. Well, that's true. Rains every day.
Okay, Mark, this is one that we want to make sure gets updated in the new ordinances and that way you don't have to work with
I would recommend you don't.
Oh, really?
I would rather keep it at 4-1 and make them request a waiver from 3-1 so that they meet the criteria I just laid out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Forget that, Mark. Forget it.
Yeah, I know you guys don't like approving all these waivers. The reason it's there.
I understand the logic.
Yep.
Okay. So, for this phase 2 only, to allow a slope greater than 3-1 in proposed basin. What's your wishes? Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's approved 4-1. Okay, number 6. Huh?
4-1.
Oh, was it? Did I say 4-1?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. 4-0.
There's another one.
Maybe I was counting there.
Yeah. I'm for it.
Okay, number 6, section 309 CG, to get relief from requiring fencing around a proposed stormwater management facility. Questions, comments? Go ahead.
Yeah. If there's no fencing, I would suggest there would be some kind of signage.
What we did in phase one. It's like, the theory there is basically, we're going back to neighborhoods that, had fencing, and now we're finishing the neighborhoods, and they were 3 years ago, and all the neighbors don't want it, and they're like getting petitions, and York Township has one development that did, they're now, York Township is gonna agree, and it was on the report, like, it's a mess, but nobody, the people don't want it, and, they're hard to maintain, that's where all the trash goes, and they don't weed whack at all, so all the fences look bad. But then, also, we have so much wetlands, I don't, like, the pond would be the least place that the kids are gonna go, if, there was an issue maybe in the creek. So that was, what we talked about in phase one, to not have.
So we've debated this on previous plans, and I think it always is kind of a judgment call. Understand that the requirement for basin fencing really came into play as a safety measure, but it really gained some steam back in the 90s, and that was when you had massive basins, and there was usually only one basin in the corner of the development, so you fence it off so that everybody stayed out. And I've heard the other argument, who's fencing this climate, it makes me want to go in. We can debate that, but we won't tonight. With the newer stormwater regulations and kind of newer design methodologies for stormwater, as you can see, you have a bunch of smaller facilities that they're trying to kind of work into the landscape and make it part of the actual grading. And that was really the justification for phase one, is these multiple little facilities along here, trying to make them part of the landscape and extension of the wetland and the area. And it would look more natural and more inviting if the fences weren't there. I don't get concerned. You recall the last one we went around and around on was, I think, phase 3 of Fox Run. That was a situation where they had a stormwater basin shoved in between 2 residential lots, and the thing was 12 feet deep. So you were kind of coming right off the side yard and sloping straight down. There I want some protection around. Again, I think it'll look better without the fencing, and Tim's correct, it'll be easier.
It is a depth. 12 feet deep.
Correct. These are shallower. The ordinance requirement is, we say 2 feet. That's more like I look for 2 feet of impounded water. But the facilities themselves might only be 3 or 4 feet deep. It's not.
Like, give you an example, like Derek said, we did the development work converting that pond, but we did that pond a zillion years ago, and it's one huge pond, massive for 200 lots. Now we have 167 lots, and we have 13 ponds. So this pond goes to here, and then it cleans and goes to here, and cleans again and goes to the wetland. So they're moving. They're not retention ponds. They're not designed to hold water. They're designed to create a rate of flow to the wetlands, but also to have that flow so the wetlands stay wet. Mm-hmm. So it's a big balancing act, but they're not as deep as this a lot. So and phase one was true.
Correct. Yes.
And I would recommend approval.
Okay. Before we,
Quick question, so these retention ponds, at one time, what is the largest amount of water that you think would be in one of them? You're talking maybe like 2 feet of water? A foot of water? We've been having a lot of rain, and the reason why I bring this up, because as a resident of this township, anyone that has a pool over 2 feet has a permit at a fence or whatever to protect. So if we have to do that, then they need to do that. Because that is a large amount of people in an area, and most of us are on farmland or Res 1 properties, and we have to do it. That's a large amount of people in one area, it should be done. That's my
A
comment.
pool and a wetland are completely different. Your pool has standing water 24/7, 365. The wetland does not.
But
still drown it.
still, when it is there, a child doesn't care, it's water. Let's go down and see what we can get out of the water.
No,
I
that's-
raised
that's
four
what's
children, I
enforced.
know what they get into, they get into everything,
Yeah.
they get into everything.
Like the pond even for the township is
Or something like that, so.
truly.
Us 2 feet of water.
So some of the safety measures, we'll go back to the waiver and the approval on the side slope. So going into a basin, you have a 3-to-1, so basically 1 foot of drop for 3 feet of land. That's shallower than the bank that's out here from the township. So unlike a pool where you can step over the edge and go in the pool, if you walk into the water, you can turn around and walk back out. That to me is the biggest difference between one of these facilities and a swimming pool.
But even like,
But thinking more like the accessibility to a smaller child, I mean, we can say, yeah, there's a parent issue, but think about, there are children that have low commit issues, and they take off and they gravitate towards water. Water is not a lot
all
of
kinds of
time,
children love water, and not
but
really a
in
large
something
density
like that,
family.
it's easily accessible, are there going to be any, I'm not saying you have to fence it off, I'm just maybe, like Larry was saying, is there going to be signage, is there going to be anything to kind of deter?
What would the signage say?
Yeah, it's
And, well, 1-year-old doesn't read.
So I guess
I'm tending to agree with you. My philosophy has somewhat changed since phase 1. But I do see the maintenance, I see all that, but, I don't want to be responsible for a 1-year-old walking into a foot of water and drowning.
In fact,
I
before
guess-
they get down in mud and they can't get back out, they get cold, you can't find them, the possibility.
Well, I can tell you, I've been in some of these to rescue ducks in Bennett Run, and I almost didn't get out.
Right, it gets muddy, you get
Yeah.
some nice stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I'm more worried about the mosquitoes and the,
Okay. Well,
they
hey,
contract with somebody to like treat for that stuff and all of these.
The facilities are all designed with a dewatering rate. There's been infiltration testing done. It's one of the reasons why you have multiple smaller facilities is so that you're not concentrating such a massive amount of water, which takes so much longer to drink.
And why is
So
there
it's-
water standing back there right now?
Well, right now, it's in ENS mode. It's not in permanent mode. Okay? So.
It's a mosquito.
yeah, go ahead.
Since our township's always worried about getting sued, if a child does go into the pond and perishes, is that a township? Who comes back? Does Tosh handle it or does the township? Because every time we want something done in this township, we're told we might get sued. So I want to know the legalities of it and who's handling that.
I would say if it's not publicly owned, and we have followed our code in the process to get to where we are, then if, God forbid, that an accident like that, an incident does happen like that, it's in America, we can sue anybody for anything, anytime. So to say we are not liable or won't get sued is a misnomer, but I think that the weight of liability rests on the property owner. Now, that being said, one of the things that Rebecca and I are dealing with right now is some of these older established neighborhoods, the stormwater facilities, wetlands, and the other areas are not being maintained. So great that we put them in, great that we're tracking them. We have to go back in now and clean them out and make sure they're functioning properly. So that's a important thing that we have to be sure of is that, and we record these ownership and maintenance agreements. We are going back now to making sure that those are being followed. Because we want to make sure that it dewaters in a certain amount of time. We want to make sure that the water is actually soaking back down to the ground, the wetlands are working. And we have at times, and we're working on one right now where it's so overgrown, we're going to go in there with almost a timber forester and blow things out and mulch it up because it's just gotten out of control. So to me, how we landscape it, how we plant it, the stuff we put in there is going to do a whole lot better than Derek was saying, and we've been joking about this, the old grass line basins with the concrete low flow channel in the bottom to get the water out of the basin as fast as possible. we have moved so far away from those now. And we're trying to create more natural areas because they work better.
And
But they have to be
they're really
maintained.
close to the school, right?
Yeah, but they have to be maintained. And so I think if we enforce the maintenance of them
We're not.
and make sure we're taking care of it, then they'll work.
So to answer your question a little bit further than Mark, because I do this all the time, homeowner association things. So DEP it's called an NOT. So the township requires me to be responsible the entire time. So if something horrible happened, like that happened, everybody's going to get sued. Township, landowners, anybody around there, and I'll get sued, and whoever that attorney can find, they'll sue everybody, and then it shakes down. So I have insurance for that. Obviously, the township has insurance for that. But then when we close that permit, say that pond is X, and we close out, notice of termination is what it is. So then we do everything that DEP requires us to do, and they require us to plants and different grasses, and we muck out all the silt that happened during construction. That gets converted, they approve it, Derek's, King looks at it as well. Any neighborhood now is required to have a homeowners association, and that association has to have insurance, and those people, say it's phase 2 or phase 1, each of these phases are gonna be a totally different association. So they will be the ultimate responsible unit owner. So they could sue the association because they'll own that land, or they can sue everyone, on that.
If something should happen to a child, assuming it's not gonna bring that child back.
No, I was just asking her.
I would rather see precaution plan. There's a park here, there's a school here. You can't change my mind on this.
So if you don't meet, today I just felt like there weren't a lot of solid, like we didn't have the answer, like I felt like Derek was wrong in what you were presenting. So, I know,
I'll defend him a little bit. He didn't design this. His engineer isn't here tonight, so.
Okay, well, and
But thank you, Mary Ann. Thank you.
But I'm just, like the whole thing, like what happens if something isn't met? Is it a fine? Do we shut down the project? Explain to me township law in simple terms, what happens if he doesn't, because I felt everything was elusive. I felt like we got nothing in writing. I felt like we were not honing in on some of the things that we needed to hone in on.
The simple answer is there's a bond in place. If Mr. Pash would defunct completely, move to Mexico, there's a bond in place that we would finish. Or at least complete what started and put everything in place.
Like, just so you know, like phase 1, I posted 12 million bucks.
Okay.
I can't remember.
So that bond becomes that age.
For the township.
Okay,
I don't remember
okay.
that, honestly.
Then that's the part that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
So then the township takes over
Yeah.
the project.
Yeah, we would hire contractors, we would take responsibility,
Oh,
not the planning board, but.
To be clear, the township's not building houses, they're selling lots. The bond is in place to ensure that all of what we call the public improvements, the roads, the stormwater, the lighting, anything that would need to be installed such that anybody living there has a safe place to live, that's what the bond would cover.
Okay. And you have, like, for each thing, you have an inspector that
So
looks.
that's where we were talking earlier, where I need to know when construction's going on out there, because as items are installed, especially things subsurfacely, we want to verify that goes in. C.S. Davidson does that on behalf of the township. We have an inspector on site watching the installation of the storm sewer pipe, the construction of these facilities. When a road goes in, we're out there watching the base go in and the paving get done and the curbing and the sidewalk and all that. So we watch that on behalf of the township, such that when a developer would come and say, hey, I finished this portion of the development, this sidewalk's in, you'll hear me make a recommendation. Have you ever heard me do a security reduction? That's what that is.
Okay.
So when we've watched a development go in and we're satisfied that the improvements are constructed to spec, we'll release a portion, or when they're done, we'll release all of that bond and say everything's built, it's satisfactory. Now it goes in to ownership of the HOA, or the township may adopt the street then once it's completed.
Okay.
So that's what we have in place, basically leading up to the completion of construction. Now, post-construction is where it gets fun, and that's where we talk about dealing with HOAs, and Mark and Rebecca having fun going out and looking at stormwater facilities, or maybe a fence should have been put up and it was taken down. All right, well, we gotta get that put back up. So,
The old ones are
post-construction,
really bad.
the enforcement goes back on codes
20
and
years ago.
just general ordinance violations, but up until that point, you know, it's basically like until you drive it off the showroom floor, we make sure everything's perfect on that car. And then from there on, your warranty kicks in.
To help you further, they don't just go dollar for dollar. So when I post this bond, it's all state wages, it's all, they add 10% on top of that, and that type of thing. So the township doesn't have to hire state wages, but, you know, where they can use a different contractor, but they add all those things for the township's protection.
Okay, that's, I have trust issues.
Okay. You made the motion to approve no fencing. Do I hear a second?
Are you amenable to signage if
Yeah,
we
I
ask
mean,
that?
it doesn't work, but, I have a wedding venue in East York, and there's a pond on that, and it wasn't the township, but the insurance company wanted me to put a little sign that says no swimming. We haven't had anybody swim in there yet, but the insurance company says that covers it. I don't know why, but I don't know how, but, so I'm sure we could come up with a little, but the problem is, where do you put it, blah, blah, but, you know, it's like the slope just, you know, the pond's not like from here to there, you know what I mean? So that's the problem with it. It's not a sign that's the problem, it's like, how does Derek, how do Derek and I figure that out? You know, it's like,
In post-construction, then the HOA could put fencing wherever they want.
Sure, good.
Yeah, so we just qualify that because we're dealing with this on another development as well. As long as where they put the fence doesn't inhibit the purpose of an easement that's there. So sometimes they come in and say, oh, I want to put a fence on the back property line, but that might be right in the easement, and the fence may then become a block of water flowing through. So a qualified maybe. I think if they want to come back in later, we have to look at it and see, is that fence going to do more damage than good if it's put in there? So it has to be looked at. I mean, I agree with Derek on this completely. And Timmy said it, I mean, these basins are next to the wetlands. I mean, if you wanted to fence the entire thing off, the entire wetlands and the pond and everything else, that'd probably be your most effective way. But I think to keep the natural look and keep those things functioning, I don't know if fences are gonna add that much more safety. I would rather see good landscaping and plants put in that are gonna be more natural and create a natural barrier there. Than,
I don't know, I don't really pay attention, Mark, but I know your pond out here doesn't have a fence, but I don't think there's signage there.
no.
So, I mean, and that's right next to the park and right next to all those things.
And it's maintained it, because we know
We know it, and I sit in my office, I see kids riding their bikes through it and everything else. But it's not holding a lot of water. I mean, during a heavy rain, well, sure, but.
Sure.
But I think it's all these things. I mean, it's not an easy black or white yes or no answer, but I think there's things we can do, and I completely agree. I think public safety is the number one issue. I'm not saying that the fence is the safest way to keep kids out of that pond. I know me when I was a kid. I'm with Derek, the fence would have been just another obstacle to get over to get in there.
I look at this too, and as I said earlier, you have a wetlands, you know, which is basically an intermittent stream going through the center here. The last thing I want is a fence across the stream. It's going to impede water. So one of the other things you have to look at, and why it's not black and white, is you have to look at where the fencing on the basin is going to go. And if the water is, you know, in some cases, some of these bigger regional basins at the bottom of the development, everything's piped. Right? A portion of this is piped. A bigger portion of this is actually land flow. And some of these basins, as Tim mentioned, you can see the two there that are right next to each other. Those actually work where the townhomes are. Yeah, where the mouse is. Those two actually work in series, and one fills up and dumps into the other one, and they balance each other until they both discharge.
Yeah.
I would prefer not to see a barrier in there that could collect trash, leaves, or whatever, and all of a sudden the water that was supposed to go in the basin bypasses it because you've created a berm.
Right. I mean, the whole goal to continue that is that all these ponds are designed around the wetlands so that, like, we're trying to make the wetlands, not that the wetlands is in them, but it's all part of that whole open space. And that's the whole goal, is to make it as natural as possible.
And we're also not proposing a fence off Fox Run through the middle of the development. That would be the comparable I would give you is, and my concern, I don't want to diminish the concern for a child getting in here. That said, we also have, streams in the township, and we're not fencing off the corridors of each streams. I think it actually, in this development, it would take away from the function of those basins and honestly the appearance. You want a natural look in a natural area. I think this approach gets it.
I can't imagine a developer or putting fence where there is flow because of the group. I mean, you say that one drains into the other.
Well, here's the thing, Daryl, is that if we're gonna fence the basins, you fence around the top. So now how do they intermingle? How does the surface water that's applying on?
I'm confused. Talk about those two.
Yep.
You said the one on the left fills up and drains in.
Or vice versa. Yep.
Okay.
All of them that are next to each other, they work in series.
How does it drain? Is it surface? Is it pipe?
Both.
Okay.
So the streets drain through the pipe.
Yeah.
The streets drain through the storm sewer, discharge into those basins. All those homes surface flow.
Yeah.
So if you put a fence along the back, let's use that as a great example. If you put a fence right along the back of those townhomes, those townhomes don't have roof leaders going in. All of the roof leaders are dumping the grade running into the facilities. If you put a fence there, there is a chance that fence could become packed with debris or tall grass, and now instead of that water running in, it runs around the outside and runs around it.
Doesn't go in the basement.
Correct. And again, I just, as a rule of thumb, if you're gonna be mowing grass, the only way to clear out a fence is with a weed whacker. So.
Okay, now, I know it's more cost, but Spring Township did a nice job with that fence around their maintenance area. Under the fence line is concrete, nothing road.
You want concrete under the fences.
I'm just saying what Spring Township did, that's all.
You mean at the township building?
Across the street from the township building, up on the hill, used to be the old horse barn. That property on that corner, there was a fence put up, and it was put on top of the concrete.
Is that next to a stream or a wetland?
No.
That's the difference. That's what I'm telling you is the difference.
Okay.
This is that's a more.
Yeah, you're
right. They did, but that's a more traditional, basically that's a basin that they just picked a corner of a property that used to be a farm.
Well, it's not a basin.
It's not a basin.
It's not a basin.
It's just a fence. Okay.
Yeah.
But
okay.
No, apples and oranges.
When we talk about fence, I'm assuming we're all thinking chain link fence. What? We're not. Is that not true?
Most retention ponds are really called retaining ponds.
Okay. What about the white three or four, line white vinyl post fence?
So then the kids just crawl in.
Okay, but if they're positioned right, I mean, I'm thinking, is there an alternative out there that we should be?
Well, why don't you vote on it, and I'll deal with it.
Do what?
Vote on it. Either
Okay.
approve it or deny it, and then we'll get to the board.
And that's
we're trying to invent stuff.
Yeah.
It's like
I want to and I will reiterate, in this situation for these types of basins located along a wetland and a natural drainage way, I recommend approval of this waiver.
Okay. We hear you.
In this situation.
Okay, we had a motion to approve, recommend for approval. I did not hear a second.
I'll second.
You're going to second. Okay. Any other questions before we vote? Okay, all in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Me?
Very well.
Did you vote, Larry?
I'm still on the fence.
So you're gonna abstain?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence. I'll abstain.
He's abstaining. Okay, so the motion passes based on
I'm still on the fence. That's actually pretty funny.
But I think we hear the public, we need to be creative here.
It's difficult with the wetlands.
I know.
mean, there's so much wetlands. And if it was in a neighborhood that, like, these women described, maybe it would make sense, but we have, like I said, I forget, it's like almost 200 acres of wetlands.
So why are we building?
Yeah, why build there
We're not
There
building
we
any
go.
wetlands.
then? Any of it?
It's all the way around it.
It's gonna be awesome.
Wallet.
Okay, any other questions? Not? Thank you.
Hey, I have two
Oh.
questions.
Go ahead.
First, I'd like to know that, I understand drilling and the purpose of that, but then you also said there is a possibility of some blasting. Will there be any kind of notification for the neighbors, for the people that are existing?
I don't, it's one of the rules, there's a distance thing. I'm not a blaster, so I don't know. We've done it before, so I know that they do notify, but I don't know if the township has an ordinance or the state has a blasting ordinance, but I know
I
it's
think
like.
the state has a blasting ordinance, and then you have to be licensed
Right.
to do it, so whatever
It would
was
be-
in, I'm not an expert on that either, so whatever is in the state statute and be consistent with whoever
Say
licensed.
it's 1,000 feet or 5,000 feet, so they have to abide by those, guidelines.
Again, and my second question goes back to the townhouses. The way I understand what he's saying with the EDUs, he's gonna pass on doing the lots for the single family in the phase 2 and concentrate on the townhouses.
No, there's a potential, so there's 50, there were 167 units in phase 1, I believe, and he had sewer capacity EDUs for all of them. In the phase 2, you've acquired 50? 70. Okay, so there are 70 EDUs, which if you look at how many, there's 50 some single families. So what we talked about is two different scenarios. You could proceed and build all the single families and a portion of the townhomes. There's 80 townhomes, so you're close. So you could build the singles and a portion of the townhomes, or you could decide to build the townhomes and none of the singles until the treatment plant gets upgraded. That is why we withdrew the waiver on the preliminary plan. Is the preliminary plan, excuse me, the final plan, I'm sorry. The preliminary plan, which is under consideration now, locks in this alignment. The developer will have to come back for a final plan, and that you'll see probably sometime next year, which is when that decision will be made, whether the singles are gonna get built or the townhomes will get built first. That will be put on a final plan, separate approval, and then once that plan goes through, then you'll be eligible to hold building permits for those. So we're trying to put some protection in place that there aren't lots created or final approval given to parcels that don't have sewer capacity.
So you had a resident ask about the blasting and the noise thing. Is it too much to ask for the developer to come to the township and say, hey, we're gonna blast 48 hours from now, that way the township can at least maybe put it on the sign or put it on the Savvy Citizen or just some notification? I don't think asking something of that and getting that in writing is a bad thing. I feel like it's a good faith effort, honestly.
Well,
Something's that simple, it's zero cost, it's just a matter
we'll
of.
be down there, but his inspectors will be there all the time anyway. So they will.
Then I'm asking how to do that, whoever. I feel like it's too easy not to.
Jamie,
Yeah.
when they blasted over the new warehouses that are going out, those that were within a certain distance, they were given letters and cards.
I lived there, and they had to tell us
Yeah.
when they were blasted. They didn't tell us all the time.
Oh.
They did sometimes tell us when they were blasted.
Okay.
When the Moran building was built, the warehouse,
You guys look at me.
No,
the guy that,
yeah.
the guy that,
Mark,
was
presentation.
responsible there, came and knocked on our door every day.
Go back to the plan, I'm sorry.
Next month. Chris, I think Chris will be here next month.
Yeah, I'd like to see a response to the traffic comment and some movement on the planning module before we.
We're gonna do it. I don't think, the law will have it done by then, but you might have some preliminary.
At least if we can have a
You're gonna run out of money anyway, so what the hell?
Who's that?
You, cause it's been done before too, Jim, what you got?
At least if we have a path forward.
Okay.
Okay, did
Have a good night.
did that answer your question?
I just wanted to say,
Okay.
guys, that when they blasted over on Otis Point,
Yeah,
they told us Norway they were blasting it. When and what time.
yeah, okay. Okay,
Any other comment?
yeah, I'm gonna give this gentleman some time. You wanna come to the podium and you've got 5 minutes of public comment to tell us what you're talking about.
So Daryl, as this comes up, I'll say, if we get notified, we will push it out.
I just feel like it's such a simple thing to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
As you say, do the right thing.
We'll have to use the speaker over there so we can hear you. Would you state your name and address, please?
Carl, 90 Joshua Drive.
Wait, Dr. Carl?
Oh, Carlo.
Carlo. And last name?
O-L.
And what's it?
Mike ain't on.
Oh,
IT's coming.
Don't try this at home.
On.
there you go. Okay, one more time your address, please.
Sure, 90 Joshua Drive.
90 Joshua.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
So this is a different topic. It's reference to the 3 Mile Island project, and the question I was asking earlier, reference to the substation, there's some substations that be around behind people's houses. And the thing I'm concerned with is the EMF, the temperature. Based on this book, the temperature reaches up 400 degrees. How do you know, how do you, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, who's going to have the decision to put that tower behind somebody's house? It's going to be behind somebody's house, their houses, or going to be a natural road? If that's the case, it can cause some serious heat issues.
Okay, and I'm not able.
Maybe a dumb question, but just.
Okay, are you talking about behind your house on Joshua?
Well, oh no, different houses. It might go through, it might actually go through certain houses right also, because based on the current power lines, that's what I'm going to.
Okay, which current power line are you talking about? So
the ones that just, there's many different ones here. I'm talking in general reference to the actual tower that emits that much heat.
Daryl. So, the book you have, I have a copy in my office too.
That's what we got from that end.
Yes, this is the upgrade of what was formerly known as 3 Mile Island, this Crane Clean Energy Center now. They're upgrading the power, the structures and the lines all the way from TMI straight down through into Dover Township to the substation down there. So the towers that go basically in this same or similar location to what's already there. The lines are heavier to carry more volume, if you will, of electricity come down through. So that's what that whole book is the upgraded existing line. So when the Crane Clean Energy nuclear plant comes back online again, those lines will carry the power to the substation, then it spiders out from there.
Okay, so that's the question. So those lines are going to produce high amounts of energy. Would that be safe behind somebody's house? That's the question.
So I can't answer that. I'm not an electrical engineer. They're telling us that it's just upgrading, but they're putting better wire in to shield more. But it's a level of electrical engineering I don't even want to speak to. That's beyond my pay grade.
You can hear the heat now.
You can hear them crackling now.
Yeah, that's absolutely going through them. My concern is that it can emit certain radiation in reference to, being so close to somebody's house. That was my concern.
Sure.
I'm gonna have somebody that say, you know what, let's move this further back, or you can put it at each corner of let's say there's a house there, you can put it at each corner, instead of putting it behind somebody's house. That would make more sense.
So they're using the existing right of way. They're trying to keep it within that existing right of way, and those right of ways were designed so that if they needed to, they could put additional lines in. So I think there is a factor of safety built into that already, so that there is room, but again, I just don't wanna speak to the electric company.
I called the attorney today, he never returned a phone, I called twice, he didn't call back next week to Garrett to get the answer, but to that project, but I haven't heard from him yet. But they were saying the same thing, they have certain regulations and everything, but I don't know what are they gonna actually do, they'll say one thing, but you know it, your housing melts, something's wrong.
I think it's a fair concern, I think we're all looking and seeing how this is gonna impact.
Especially little kids that live in the area too,
Sure, I mean, we've been living in and around those high tension lines for a long time, I mean, is there some impact, because we're underneath it, probably.
Hey,
Probably
folks,
wanna be
folks, one conversation at a time,
But
please.
I think it's a fair concern, it's something that we as a township are following closely as well with the upgrades to the line to see, are the easements right away, do we take additional land from people as they come through, so it's something we're looking at now.
Okay, fair question, fair answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.